Hi everybody, this is Mr. Bishop and welcome to what I do believe will be our third and final screencast for our first set of lecture notes. So in our last screencast we introduced Chapter 3 and communities and biomes. So we talked a little bit about communities and limiting factors and range of tolerance, and then the succession of species, so our primary, secondary, and our climax community. So now we are going to talk about the biomes that those communities live in themselves. So we have our definition of biomes, which is a group of ecosystems that share the same type of climax community and are determined by temperature and precipitation. So we know that a biome has to have our abiotic, biotic factors and our ecosystem, and then we group our ecosystems by their temperature and their precipitation. So areas you can see on this map to our right, areas that have very similar precipitation and temperatures. With there are some extremes for certain ones, but for the most part, they are they are grouped by their similarities in temperature and precipitation. So we have two main types of biomes. We have our aquatic and our terrestrial biomes. And we will explain a little bit about each, and we are going to start with our aquatic biomes. So we know that water covers a large portion of the planet Earth, and in our different oceans, lakes, streams, and ponds, we have all different types of life. We have aquatic plant life, we have obviously fish, we have crustaceans, and all sorts of different arthropods that live in the sea. So we have three types of aquatic biomes. We have marine biomes, which are our oceans. We have the four oceans on planet Earth. We have the Pacific Ocean, which is the closest to us here locally in San Diego. We have the Atlantic Ocean that borders the east coast of the United States. And then we have the Arctic Ocean, which is up in the Arctic Circle near Alaska. And then we have the Indian Ocean, which is east near Africa and India and Australia. So those are our marine biomes. And then we have estuaries. And estuaries is well placed between marine biomes and freshwater biomes, because estuaries are where our saltwater marine biomes meet up with our freshwater rivers, lakes, and stream biomes. So estuaries are what we call our wetlands. We have a wetlands here. We have an estuary here in San Diego, and so they are our coastal wetlands, and they are a very, very, very important aquatic biome. And then finally we have our freshwater biomes. So we have lakes and ponds and streams. So we have the San Diego River, we have Lake Cuyamaca, we have all different lakes, and those are our freshwater biomes. So the marine biome, it is divided into two zones. The photic zone, with the photic means with light, so 150 to 200 feet, lots of marine life. So we can see over here on our diagram on the right that the photic zone is that top layer of the ocean, which the light from the sun is able to penetrate. And then we have the aphotic zone, aphotic. It's very similar to how we had biotic and abiotic. We now have photic and aphotic. So aphotic is without light. So when we get 200 feet below the surface of water, light can no longer penetrate any deeper in the water, and that is where the aphotic zone is. And then in our diagram we have a few more labels. This is getting into more detail about the ocean and how the coastal regions are formed, but we are just considering right now the photic zone, which is from the very top surface of water and oceans to 150 to 200 feet, and there is lots of marine life in that photic zone. And then below that, the aphotic zone, where there might be less and less. There is still marine life, but less, because it is again another harsh environment for it. The range of tolerance goes down in the aphotic zone, and there are certain species adapted to that. Estuaries. So estuaries, I said they're very important. They are where fresh and salt water are mixed in a coastal body of water. So when a river mouth comes to an ocean, it empties into an ocean. And we have marshes and coastal wetlands that grow where this river empties into an ocean. And these are important because this is where most marine life comes to reproduce. So estuaries are extremely important for the survival of marine life. And then we have our freshwater biomes. So that includes rivers, ponds, lakes, and streams. And then we have our terrestrial land biomes. So again, broken up by temperature and precipitation. So there are 6 major biomes that we want to consider: the tundra, the taiga, deserts, grasslands, temperate forest, and the tropical rainforest. So the tundra. The tundra is a treeless land in the far north and the far south of the Earth. So the Arctic and the Antarctic Circle is where our tundra is. No trees, and permafrost covers the ground nearly year-round. Extremely cold temperatures, long summer days, and short periods of winter sunlight. So that's why we talk about in Alaska, where there are days in the summer where you can have nearly 20 hours of sunlight because of the way the Earth rotates and revolves around the sun. Those times a year, the sun it kind of skims the horizon and it doesn't go down all the way. And then during the winter, when the axis of the Earth is away from the sun, the sun only comes above the horizon for very short periods, and that low amounts of sunlight in the winter. And then south of the tundra, we have the taiga. So this would be our northern regions of Canada and parts of Alaska. So this is where we have our coniferous forests, and we can remember that coniferous forests are pine trees, are sequoia trees, are trees that bear pine cones. This is a good way to remember what a coniferous forest is. They are cool year-round. They have poor, rocky soil, so the trees that grow in the taiga are adapted to growing in that soil. And there are many mammals, birds, and insects in the taiga. Then we have deserts. So deserts are extremely arid regions. That means they are very, very dry. Sparse to almost non-existent plant life. So we can see in this picture we have only very few grass shrubs. Deserts have high, hot temperatures during the day. They drop dramatically in temperature at night, and they're very cool at night. There's almost no water, little or none, and mostly insects, arachnids, reptiles, and other nocturnal animals. And these animals are very well adapted to living in this environment, but there are not many of them, and it's an extremely harsh environment for organisms to live in. And we have our grasslands. So large communities covered with grasses and similar small plants. So the American Midwest is, the Midwest is the center of the country. So think of Nebraska and Iowa and Illinois and Indiana and all those countries that cover the Great Plains of the United States. Those are grasslands. So they have wet and dry seasons, very fertile soil. Of course, Nebraska and Iowa, there's many farms, and agricultural business is booming in those parts of the country. Fertile soil and largest terrestrial mammals found here. So another area that is covered in grasslands is Africa. And when we think of Africa, we think of elephants and giraffes, and those are enormous terrestrial animals. So that's another example of grasslands. And then temperate forests. So our temperate forests are dominated by broad-leaved hardwood deciduous trees that lose their leaves every year. So this is our northeast portion of the United States, where people go to see the leaves change color, the foliage, and every autumn or fall, the broad-leaved oak trees and maple trees, all their leaves change from a green to very vibrant, bright yellows and reds and oranges. And I grew up in this part of the country, and it is very, very pretty during that time of the year to see all the leaves change color. But then the leaves fall off the trees, and you have to rake them off your lawn, and your dad makes you do that, and it's chores. So then it becomes less beautiful. Temperate forests have cool and warm seasons. And again, these forests, there's lots of shade, there's lots of water, and many birds, many mammals, many reptiles can all live in this biome because it is able to support a lot of life. The species don't have to be especially adapted as in a desert or the tundra or the taiga. And we have our tropical rainforests. Of course, we said our tropical rainforests are in our tropical regions of the earth, so below the tropic, between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, very close to the equator, warm temperatures, wet weather, and lush plant growth. And then even the tropical rainforest, because the trees are able to grow to a crazy, just very, very tall heights. So it contains many layers because there's layers of the tropical rainforest, the ground, the understory, and canopy, in which many different species are able to occupy different niches. So the understory is the ground up to the top layer of the trees, and then the canopy is the leaves of the tree, and then the emergent layer is above that. So there are animals in tropical rainforests that live exclusively in the canopy, and the same goes for the understory, and then very few in the emergent layer, but birds that are adapted live in that emergent layer, and so there are tons and tons of organisms in the tropical rainforest. And that completes our third and final screencast, and I got that in just under 15 minutes. So how about that? I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I look forward to your feedback. Thank you.